So in my areas, I would say the housing as a missionary doesn't change a lot. The further you get from the city, we call it inaka, the inaka, that means the countryside or kind of the nowhere type feel. You get maybe some little kind of get a little smaller. You sleep on tatami mats, which is kind of like would feel like the texture of like straw is almost what it'd feel like. It's really interesting. You'd lay on those and they'd have a futon on top. These small apartments, you'd usually have, sometimes your study room was kind of with the kitchen living room area. Sometimes you had your own study room. You had a kitchen, and then you had the tatami room, where there'd be sliding doors and you open up, and that's where you slept. Usually if you're in the city, sometimes because it's so packed and it's so expensive, you'd have smaller places. Sometimes nicer quality, but smaller. But I never lived in any areas that were really that bad. It was awesome. I mean, some elders did have some areas for sure. There's a lot of cockroaches in Japan, so sometimes there'd be cockroaches in your apartment or bugs like that, but you kind of just like get used to it. But I actually never saw one in my apartment. I think some elders might be a little mad if they heard me say that just because they experienced a lot. But I never saw one, which was really nice. And we went from area to area, or when we would transfer, you always go by a train or a bus, but most always train. It was really, really cool, actually, really interesting, because here in America, most all places, we never use trains, always cars. And I would say maybe 80% of the population always trains to work, to the store, trains and bikes. They love biking as well. And so whenever we transfer an area, you transfer by yourself most times, unless someone else is going to the same area as you, which is kind of scary at first. But you have to take your bike, you have your shoulder bag, you have your backpack, and you're just like lumbering on there. And it's funny because in trains for transportation in Japan, in America, if there's 2 Americans, they'd be 10 times louder than 150 Japanese people in the same train car, because they're all just to themselves, very quiet. Just don't talk to anyone, headphones in, or just things like that. And it was interesting because it was kind of sad to me. It made me want to reach out to them so much more because they didn't have a lot of interaction throughout their day unless it was at work or with friends. They were just very to themselves. And sometimes they kind of be a little annoyed because you're kind of squeezing so much onto the train. But that's how you transfer. That was transportation. Every time we go to a zone meeting, it was by train. And sometimes, like I said, just like short 20-minute bus rides. I would say just a tip for when you do travel. A lot of elders kind of don't realize this because, at least in our mission, we don't use backpacks anymore. So we just have a shoulder bag. And I think that way we look a little more professional. So it just goes over one shoulder. Usually a lot of elders get the Timbuk2 missionary bags. It goes over your back. But definitely still bring a backpack. I think a lot of times I saw that elders and sisters would just kind of stick with that shoulder bag, like, oh, well, we can't wear them. But when you go shopping, you can use a backpack to put food in there. As well as when you transfer, or you go on splits for a day, you want a backpack. In that backpack, you can put clothes and things like that so that you can go on splits for the day. You'll still bring your shoulder bag so that you can leave that backpack at the apartment and you just like proselyte with your shoulder bag. But having the backpack at the apartment, that's where you can put your toiletries, you can have an extra clothing, things like that, especially when you transfer. Sometimes we ship our bags with the company. And so sometimes your clothes don't get there for a day or two. So you want to have that backpack with maybe 2 days of clothing so that you can be able to have a change of clothes just in case your clothes don't get there right on time. And that's definitely a tip I would say, because I didn't know that. I didn't bring a backpack. And so going on splits, some people would like bring their carry-on, the wheeling one. That was so hard because you're going on a train, or sometimes you have to bike from the station to the apartment. So you're like wheeling it or trying to hold it. And that was just never smart. So I would say that was definitely a tip, I would say, for when you go on splits and travel. It was really interesting as well for when we go shopping. People in Japan shop daily. They don't, a lot of like moms or wives, when they go to get food to cook for their family, they go each day. So they go and get the things for their day each and every day. They rarely shop weekly like we do. A big reason for that as well is, for example, simple things like the fruit and stuff would go bad a lot quicker than it would here. because the humidity and it would go, you have to eat it really quickly. And so they would just go buy simple, just daily trips to the store. And so that was really interesting because we'd go once a week and buy a huge bulk. And so it was kind of interesting for them to see that. But it's really fun. Food is a lot more expensive in Japan. Especially meats and fruits are very expensive. So you kind of did a little bit without, or you get cheaper quality so you can get more. But we didn't, when we shopped, it was different than you expect. If you wanted granola for breakfast, it's like $8 a bag, very expensive. Or fruit, if you wanted like they have a Japanese pear called nashi. It's really good, but it'd be like, I swear, it was like $2 or $3 per pear. So if you wanted to put money on that, it was very rare. So we kind of would always hope that in every ward there's a gift basket from the members, and you just like be praying when you walked in on Sunday, like, please just say there's some fruit in there. Like, please say we just got some fruit or some meat or something. And so you'd wait for gifts like that. But there was three Costcos in our mission. And so if you were in an area where you had a Costco, it was just like glorious. It was just like a dream come true because it's the same price. You can go and everything else is way more expensive. McDonald's is more expensive than America, but you go to Costco and it was the same thing, like $1 for a slice of pizza, 65 cents for all you could drink soda. They had the bulgogis or go-gogis or whatever. They had all these like unreal, like just the American food, and you're like, yes, it's a miracle. And so sometimes if members were in those areas, really nice, would bring you some food, or you could go just get some food on P-Day, and that was so fun. It was so fun. It was so cool as well in some areas. They have a mall in our mission that I want to say is like one of the biggest in all of Asia, or second biggest or something. It's massive. It was so cool. Have all the American stores you like, everything you'd see. It's definitely a little more expensive in Japan for sure. So what you buy, you kind of, unless you have a lot of personal funds, you didn't really want to spend your personal money on things like that. But it made shopping really fun to just go around Japan and just kind of sightsee and see things like that. They have, especially in Tokyo, you got to see Tokyo Tower, or Sky Tree is what they call it. It's like the tallest building in Japan. And you have Rainbow Bridge, and Odaiba is this like kind of man-made little island, and all these cool little things that were so cool. And then obviously you have the Buddhist temples or the samurai castles or things like that were so interesting to go see, that are just very different than anything you see in Europe or in America. And it's not a normal place you vacation to, so you really treasure kind of taking in the culture while you're there, because a lot of times it's the only time you're going to be there. Definitely be ready for weather. I had experiences where the summer is so hot in some areas. And I remember just never wear gray pants in the summer. That's a big SOS right there. Just abort that one right there. If you're ever biking in August and you're wearing gray, just head right back inside and switch into some darker pants. Because I remember transferring this area August 1st, where this little valley is actually the hottest, like in all of Japan. Or next to it, but it's close. So basically, we're up there. And I remember first I didn't know any better wearing gray, just these gray pants, like dark, like lighter gray pants. And my companion goes, yeah, we're going to go back to like the main area that has like the most people. Okay. So that's like 2 hours away. It was maybe 100 degrees, like full humidity, 100% humidity. And by the time we got there was not a soul that wanted to talk to me, because there was just sweat marks all over my pants. And it was the worst thing ever. I just wanted to die. I wanted to hide. I was like, no one wants to talk to this right now. So I would definitely get used to that, as well as monsoon season. Like huge flooding, like you're walking through shin deep of water. It's only about in June in the year, but it's like warm rain. It's kind of fun. You make the choice. You can wear your rain gear, but then it's so hot you just sweat and get soaked anyway. Or you just get soaked by water. So I actually chose to get soaked by water. But it was fun. It was actually a really cool experience, but the monsoons were insane. It was just like heavy rain, thick rain. And it would just go for days sometimes. But get ready for that for sure. There's a lot of rain. I remember thinking it wouldn't stop. It would just rain forever. But that was always fun. It makes it harder to talk to them on the streets a little bit, because there's rarely people out there and they just want to get out of it, but it was fun.